Hi, and welcome to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce Member Connection. I'm your host, Eric Knowles. Before we get started, we will hear a word from one of our supporters.
This is garbage, and you probably think all of it just goes to waste. But in Miami-Dade, we convert most of what you throw away into energy. In our waste to energy facility, we can turn about 90% of your everyday garbage into reusable fuel. Levels look good. That creates clean electricity for our community. Enough energy to power 35,000 homes. Pretty illuminating, huh? In Miami-Dade, nothing goes to waste.
It's another Monday. That's right. And I'm excited. And because this guest is a very special guest, you know, the Chamber's been around since 1974, and we moved, and we are now, our home is at Barry University. And I have the Vice-Provost of Continued Education, Mr. David Kopp. David, how are you?
Doing well,
And I
thanks.
think I may have said that wrong in terms of the department. It is continued education, right?
Well, it's extended learning,
Extended learning,
which includes continuing ed and graduate studies, right?
Right. Well, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You know, and I have to say thank you to Barry. We had been downtown in offices for about 14 years, and where we were, they're actually getting ready to knock down the building, which is on an entire city block, and put up, from what I understand, one of the tallest buildings south of New York. So we had to find a new home, and we reached out to Barry, and you all were so kind enough to house us over at the university. We are excited for being there, and being there with you with extended learning is very important. First of all, let's find out a little bit about you.
Well, I like walks on the beach, my favorite couple. Actually, you probably don't want to know that. Well, I was in the private sector in human resources in Los Angeles and Charlotte before getting into academia. But the part I enjoyed the most was kind of training and developing employees. So that kind of translated into pursuing my doctorate and going into academia about 25 years ago, when this was all jet black.
Okay.
Not so much anymore. So I've been with Barry now. I'm celebrating my 20th year, in fact.
Oh, wow.
So they can't get rid of me.
Okay. And extended learning, I know we've had the opportunity to talk a little bit about what it is that you do. And before we go there, Barry University, it's been around quite a long time. What are some of the other areas that people can engage in as far as furthering their education?
Well, you're right. First of all, we were founded in 1940 by the Adrian Dominican Sisters, and we are a liberal arts college, but with a lot of programs that are nationally, if not world renowned, like our nursing program, and we have a law school education as well as business, as you know.
Right.
As far as extended learning goes, the mission is really just that. It's an extension of the traditional pathway that a student may follow in getting a traditional degree. So literally and symbolically, we're outside of Miami shores. We have locations in Jacksonville and Melbourne, as well as Pembroke Pines. So the mission, I would say, would be for those that perhaps don't follow a traditional trajectory in getting a 4-year degree, for instance. There may be folks out there that had a little college 20 years ago and want to finish up. We certainly accommodate that scenario, as well as professional development. And as you mentioned, continuing ed for those folks that may not want a degree, but they want certifications and some professional development in their careers.
Right. So again, so a person comes to you. How does that process work? And who do you find coming to you? Who are those individuals that are coming back to you to extend or continue and build on their careers?
Well, it varies. I will say that Barry, our wheelhouse, we are a minority serving institution, and following our core values, we have a lot of first generation students. So many students are going into college and experiencing the college phenomenon for the first time. But a traditional student is usually a non-traditional student that would come. It would be someone, as I say, that maybe wants to finish his or her degree. It may be someone who wants to do some professional development and maybe get a what we call a micro credential or a badge. So we do try to market and advertise that option for the non-traditional student as well, especially in Miami, where we have our base, where we share the building with you.
Right, right, right. And I know that you have quite a bit, I guess, of foreign students that come to Barry.
Yeah, I think last I looked, over 80 countries were
Wow.
represented, of folks that are coming from other countries. I will say that after COVID and the pandemic, there was a sea change in all of higher ed, including Barry, on the way we deliver the information. As you know, many organizations, including Barry, got an infrastructure to support online learning and
Right.
e-learning, and many of our meetings now are done on Zoom versus
In person.
So we have pivoted to that modality for folks that want to pursue either their degree or some type of credential from their comfort of their home, so to speak.
Right, right. So, and you talk about obviously online learning has been around for quite a while, but a lot of institutions, as you said, with the pandemic, had to pivot and shift. How long have you been doing online?
Well, in some form, we've been doing it for many years. I think it crystallized because of COVID and getting new infrastructure and COVID funds. I think we have an expert person leading our online learning, and we really have developed the software and the hardware over the last couple of years. So I think right now we probably, I would say all of our programs have some type of online component, whereas perhaps 5-10 years ago, it was strictly face-to-face, come to the building every Thursday night at 5:50 type of thing.
Right, right, right. So again, when I think about extended learning and trying to understand or wrap my head around that, so you have a 4-year degree and you have a master's program, you have doctorate program.
That's right.
So how does extended learning work with those programs or degrees?
Well,
Or how does it differ?
right. And there are a couple of ways it could differ. First of all, it could be location based. In other words, if it's not in Miami Shores, and let's say someone's taking a course in Jacksonville or Melbourne, that would be, in our world, extended learning. 'Cause we're
Okay.
extending from the main campus. And also, it would be someone who maybe is between degrees, perhaps between their bachelor's and master's, and want to do a post-bac certificate in programming, or even how to fly a drone. I know we have one of those as a professional development, believe it or
Oh,
not,
okay.
because I know a lot of realtors use that now for
Right.
some of their showings. So it does vary. The first crossroads would be, do you want to pursue a degree, or you want something non-credit, for instance?
Hmm. Okay. And I know, obviously, again, we've had conversations of reference to Bahamas.
Right.
Yeah, let's talk about that and how that got started. I know we have a rather large Bahamian community here, not just Bahamian, obviously, many foreign communities here, Jamaican, Haitian, Colombian,
That's right.
and the list goes on. But I know you started a doctorate program in the Bahamas. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. And I can give credit to the lady who started, who's the dean of our education, Dr. Jill Farrell. Uh, had some leads out on island, and about 7 or 8 years ago, actually pursued those leads, and it crystallized into folks being interested in taking the Barry degree in Nassau and in Freeport, in places that I'm sure you know, where we're conducting the degree. So we've been there about, I believe, 8 or 9 years, and we do offer master's and doctoral programs. As I say, the model now is a little more subtle in the sense that while the professors would fly out every other weekend, let's say, there may be a couple of weeks where they do it online and
Okay.
beam into Nassau or Freeport. So it's an exciting venture, and we love collaborating with the Bahamas and their government officials in education.
Right. Now, when I think about, obviously, Miami, I guess some may say it's not a college town in the sense of your northern schools that are more college or town oriented. Um, in terms of obviously South Florida high schools, how does that come into play with your engagement with, I don't know whether to say recruiting or getting students uh, from our local community to attend Barry?
Well, it's a fair point in the sense that we actively recruit from the schools. We have a dual enrollment program where actually
Oh, I didn't know
students,
that.
yeah, in their junior and senior year, they could start taking some courses
Okay.
towards college credit. And we also have a emergency management service program with the high schools if they're interested in being paramedics or EMTs, for instance.
Right.
So a lot of our recruiting comes from those initiatives as well. But like other institutions, we have a admissions and recruiting department. Then they go to different states and different fairs
Okay.
and different educational forums. We do have, I think the number I saw, 20 or 30,000 alums over the last 75, 80 years. So we are well represented in all the states. So I know frequently we have alumni meetings in various states as well.
Okay. And another big area of support or engagement with schools, obviously, is athletics. And I know that you are very engaged with athletics. I believe you tennis, golf. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we have several sports where we've won titles in our division, and with all schools, the focusing on the athletics and athletes, they tend to be just because of their support systems. They tend to also be very good students as well. So we try to enhance that recruiting. We have. As I say, coaches that in soccer as well, we're always out recruiting. So I think if you look it up, Barry's done pretty well in our division, and there are a lot of victory cloths around the gymnasium. I know.
Right. And what's the future look like for Barry University?
I'm optimistic. I think we've all gone through the trauma of COVID,
Yeah,
and
before you go there, talk about that a little bit, and how did you pivot, and how did you really make that transition or deal with the transition of COVID?
well, it was emerging. We have great leadership at the top. I'm not just talking about myself, but we basically, following CDC guidelines, of course,
Right.
we kept the communication up with the students. Obviously were very flexible in the delivery of the courses. We made sure that for those folks, this becomes a digital equity issue. Those folks that perhaps didn't have laptops and access to internet, we made sure that they did. So we took care of our students during that time in the sense of being very flexible. And as far as the health protocols, we had a crack team that went over each of the protocols, making sure that everyone was safe, obviously. So it was like all organizations, it took some pivoting, some flexibility, and really it's a new world in the sense that many professors who never taught online were teaching online for the first time.
Okay.
And we know that not all good face-to-face professors are necessarily, so we had a great training.
Right.
We spent a lot of time in training professors to do online with the rigor that our students expect.
So, and not, being entrenched or part of it, were students attending class, or were classes just like shut down?
There was a period when the campus was shut down
Okay.
due to the state of COVID. And then we started easing into optional. You can either do it face-to-face or you can beam in from your home, for instance, depending on what the student felt comfortable with. If for students that had pre-existing conditions, for instance, we made sure that they weren't exposed to anything. But I think it was really a transition, and as you and I have talked about, fortunately it's sunsetting now, and we're getting back to somewhat of normal operations. But there will be a legacy in the sense that we have a lot of infrastructure, a lot of the students and professors really enjoyed the online experience, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Right, right, right. So speaking of not going away anytime soon, we talked a little bit about the future. So what does the future look like?
Well, I think as far as Barry's concerned, I think per our investment and our training and development, that we'll have the modality of online and hybrid from here on. I mean, that will be part of how we recruit. And especially with the new generation of students, it's something that they really demand now. So I think the future is good. I think higher education has always had its challenges because as you and I know, there's always been talk about the value of a four-year degree versus the cost of it. And we're always grappling with that as an industry. But that is the Barry difference. I mean, that's our pitch as far as we treat the students and their individual circumstances very personally. So they're not just a number, and we take great pride in that.
Yeah. Talk about the opportunities for scholarship.
Well, they're vary depending on the category. For instance, I know we have scholarships now for those that are interested in mortgage banking, for instance.
Okay.
It's a fully funded scholarship that we're starting in the spring. As you've talked about, we have athletic scholarships as well as honor society type of scholarships and grants. So they're very varied. We have a department that is dedicated to grants and scholarships. And most of our students are Pell eligible as far as the government funding some of the cost of tuition. So it's something that a student could look forward to upon applying to Barry, that they have a counselor that talks about some of their options and scholarships that perhaps they should apply for.
Right. So if there was one thing you want to leave the audience with a reference to Barry, what would that be?
Well, reminding folks that Barry, we're an institution here that's been here, 82 years, and willing, ready, and able to help them with any of their educational aspirations, whether it's non-credit or for credit. And if they want some counseling on how to get a micro badge or some type of certificate towards their current career, we're here to help.
Micro badge. Explain that a little bit before we go.
Yeah, a micro credential or micro badge would be just a system that would acknowledge that you have a specialized knowledge in something, whether it's technology or Microsoft or some type of certification. And many times that is what employers are looking for, something that you can use Monday morning, so to speak. And we offer those types of credentials.
So how can someone get in touch and learn more about Barry?
Sure. Well, the quickest way is barry.edu. Get on our website. They can reach me personally at my email, which is D as in David, KOPP @barry.edu. And depending on what their needs are, I can get them to the right person if it's not me.
Right, right. David, thank you so much. You know, if you want to learn more about the Miami-Dade Chamber, you can go to m-dcc.org. I got to get used to not having to say the www because everybody knows that. So you have to put www. So m-dcc.org or call the chamber at 305-751-8648. This has been the Chamber Connection. Thank you for joining us. Today, I stand before you, a proud graduate of Miami-Dade College and the 5th president of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. I'm honored to return to the college that prepared me to become a leader in our community, providing an education second to none. So I'm asking you to please tune in every Monday at 12 noon to the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce's Member Connection, as I interview members of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce on our Facebook page at Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce or our YouTube channel, Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. To learn more about the Chamber, please go to m-dcc.org or call the Chamber at 305-751-8648.